Coming up on this episode of Don't Panic, we've got the biggest technology news of the year because we've got back-to-back conferences. One, the the Electronics Entertainment Expo E3, talking all the big video game news, plus WWDC, the Worldwide Developers Conference, talking everything Apple. I swear it's going to be a long episode, and not just because Dan's not here. It's going to be an exciting one. We hope you stick around because Don't Panic's going to start right now. This is Don't Panic, episode number 135, recorded June 13th, 2016. I'm Bridge Crews, Project Scorpio, and Advanced Computer Vision. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Don't Panic, the technology podcast on gadgets, the internet, and, of course, you, the most important part of the equation. I'm Sean Jennings, joined as always by one man. He works alone, a solo act, Colby Rabideau.
Yes, sir.
He's a lone wolf.
And someday I'd like to be referred to as a loose cannon.
As a loose cannon. Damn it, Rabideau, not again. Turn in your gun and your badge.
Indeed. I can only dream.
Yeah, no Dan this week.
Yep.
As we reference, he's off scuba diving? What is he doing?
Yeah, I think so. I can't remember where. He must be in Florida or something. Okay. But yeah, he was doing scuba diving today.
Can you just do that?
I don't think so. Like you have to get like certified and stuff. So I assume he's like with an instructor, getting instructed or something. I don't know. But all best of luck to Dan. I don't know.
Yeah, international man of mystery, Dan Miller. Always got something up his sleeve.
Yes.
You guys didn't know I was an accomplished scuba diver? No, Dan, somehow we didn't.
No idea.
No, well, good. Well, he'll be back in the future. I congratulate you before we came on, but congratulations to Colby and Dan, who helmed the show last week, did a fantastic job. You should go listen to 134. I was so disappointed to miss the Microsoft Enterprise discussion because I I kid you not, I was like screaming out loud when you're like, "What's SharePoint? How does SharePoint work?" And I'm like, "My life is SharePoint. It's like half my job is SharePoint. Like I do SharePoint every day." I was so like screaming. It was painful. Amazing. But you did a good job.
I'm sorry.
You represented reasonably well.
Right. It's probably more entertaining us not knowing anything about it.
Exactly. That's how. And then you got to go more technical with it. See, I would have just been like, as a consumer, I would. Right. But you guys got to have fun with it. So that was a fun one. Is there any banter we wanna chit chat about before we get to the news, or you want to jump right to what's going on in tech?
Well, so as you were doing the intro read, I was thinking, what if like way back 3 years ago, instead of calling the show Don't Panic, we called the show Panic. And then in the intro, you could just be like, okay, it's time to panic.
To panic. Yeah, that would have been good.
Yeah, and then we could have just like yelled and ran around our apartments.
I don't think we would have gone 135 episodes with that strategy. I feel like after 5, we would have been like, this is exhausting. I can't keep this up. We're too worried about everything. Can you believe it, though? This is because our very first episode was a WWDC episode.
Oh,
we talked about iOS 7, right? The one that the big redesign.
Yeah. I think you're right.
That was
easy.
That was way back. Jeez. And we're back with more WWDC because they do it every year. The big software event. And this year was purely 100% software. Sometime they get a little, we had rumors about a new MacBook or, who knows, but strictly a software event. tvOS, macOS, watchOS, and iOS. And I thought about it before we came on the air, Colby, that, our usual strategy is I kind of just read through everything they announced at a very high level. But I thought that kind of sucked because you can just go online and read everything they announced, right? Then you don't need us. So I thought instead, why don't we each pick a few things that we in particular want to talk about and think is interesting, and we'll just pick random stuff out of the announcement.
Cool.
Sound good?
Yeah. Are we doing E3 first or Apple first?
Well, it's up to you. Is there one you want to start with?
I don't have a ton. Like I don't know. I didn't have a ton of things that jumped out at me from E3, so I would be fine with starting from that. I mean, starting with that, if we want to go through it quick.
Yeah, oh, we can definitely do that. Yeah, the problem with E3 is it's still going on, right? Literally right
Right.
now as we talk, Sony's doing their big event, and Nintendo's is tomorrow. The only big hardware event we've done so far is Xbox, and we also had announcements from EA, Ubisoft, Bethesda. Um, who else am I missing? I think there's one other big software company. Um, and the problem is they just announced a bunch of games, and we could literally list like 50 different games that are coming this year or next year. I picked a couple I thought were interesting. Um, in terms of hardware, I guess I'll just quickly mention that, we got the Xbox One S, which is the slim version of the Xbox One. Really, a bigger hard drive is really the only other difference. But I think I like the white. Did you see pictures of this
Yeah,
thing? I
I
actually think
did.
it's
Yeah, it
really
looks
good
great.
looking. It's a pretty
Hmm.
box. Um,
Looks like a stormtrooper.
it does, and it's kind of like, futuristic looking. It's neat. So that'll be coming later this year. Um, but one thing I picked out I thought was interesting was the announcement. It's not really an announcement because I think we've known about it. Is Xbox Everywhere? We saw the first games available, where you buy a game once, and you'll be able to download and play the game across Xbox and Windows 10 devices. And in addition, when you
Mm,
start a game on one device, you can finish it a day. They sync all of your game data, including where you last saved and your accomplishments and all of those things.
that's funky.
It is. It is
That seems
multiplayer as
cool.
well. Will cross both, so a PC player can play against an Xbox player, which I think is
Hmm.
really interesting.
Yeah. Uh, that would be cool to me if I had either a PC or an Xbox, but
Yeah, you're not the guy
I
to
have
ask.
neither a PC
There's
nor
no
an
cross compatibility between the PlayStation and your Mac.
no. Well, so PlayStation does support the streaming thing now, where you can
Right.
stream, like the game plays on your PS4 and you can stream it from a computer.
Hmm.
Um, it's not clear to me. One thing I haven't figured out with that is like I don't know if it works outside of your house because I've only tried it in your house. But I think it'd be pretty crazy if it worked like
Yeah.
from anywhere. Um, I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's possible, which is sort of the same thing, but not really.
Yeah, I mean, this feature is useful for somebody. I'm not sure who is really, I guess, to bridge PC and Xbox gaming, which I guess makes sense on some level. The the problem is you're I don't well. I get the cross multiplayer. That makes sense to me. I don't understand the advantage to getting the right to download it on both. I guess if you're bouncing between devices. Yeah, I guess it's cool.
Yeah.
I don't know. My brain's not wrapping around the practicality of it.
I wonder if it's I don't know. On one, I feel like it's kind of a no loss thing. Like I feel like very few people would buy the same game on both.
Hmm.
Um, so you might as well have this like value add thing to like having an Xbox and a PC. That's my only thought, really.
Well, and as I think about it, what the problem is, Steam is eating their lunch, and what you're doing is guaranteeing game sales through the Microsoft Store, of which they get a cut, and they're controlling
Hmm.
the ecosystem.
True.
That's the advantage
True.
because they've lost PC gaming. Microsoft doesn't
Right.
control
Right.
that, and that's a
Definitely.
big advantage to them that you can't get with Steam.
Right.
So that's an interesting concept. We also saw some. Well, I can briefly mention Project Scorpio, which is basically a souped-up Xbox that's coming out next year, late next year. That's going to be like 6 octaflops of some crazy non-technical babble, but it'll
That's a lot
be
of flops.
super 4K VR coming out the yin yang. No details, price, even date. It's just super late next year. Is going to be the next generation of Xbox One, but they've already said everything will be cross-compatible with the current Xbox One, so it's not like a brand new console. They're just souping up the power inside of the existing one.
Right.
In terms of games, we saw a shit ton. A couple I picked out: Battlefield 1, which is most people know Battlefield, the kind of shoot 'em up game. You can tell I'm a gamer. They they're bringing it back to World War One. They're blimps and horses and tanks, and I'm so excited. Like I actually might go out and get this.
You know what that reminds me of? When I was a kid, like a young kid, like when Windows 95 was a thing. Uh, we had this like I don't remember what it was called, but it was like a World War One fighter plane simulator game for Windows 95.
Awesome.
And it was like you had to. There were a bunch of missions where you had to like shoot down zeppelins, and I was absolutely terrible at it, but it was fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. So this reminds me of that, but like now.
Well, and it looks like you'll be able to fly planes in this one as well, and do all those sorts of fun controller stuff. So that's exciting. I will say that, fun. By the way, fun fact: you may not know this. The original Call of Duty, which was a World War II game, right? Originally,
Correct.
do you know Steven Spielberg worked on that game?
Wow.
And was instrumental in the launch of it. Yeah, because he was doing Saving Private Ryan around that time, and he's a huge World War II nut. And he was actually instrumental in making the game. So fun fact for you.
I had no idea.
I bet he's still cashing checks off that too.
Yeah. The original Call of Duties were pretty excellent.
Oh, those were great. And that's kind of what I want back. I am so sick of these generic like warfare games, the duty caller games, that been there, done that. This is at least a small twist on it.
Right. No, it's interesting. I mean, it's, I think at some point the World War II games got pretty stale, and so they moved into like modern times, and then the modern times got pretty stale, so they now moved into like sort of future stuff. And that begs the question, like, what do you do next? And I guess, is it EA? EA has answered the question for us by looping back around and starting in World War One, which I've never really played a World War One game before, so could be great.
I'm looking forward to tribal warfare, where it's just sticks and rocks and like spears.
Right. Well, that's like Far Cry.
I was gonna say they've done them all. They've made every game there is to be made. Let's be real here. But one that they have not made that actually looked like a lot of fun. Did you see the Star Trek virtual reality game?
I didn't until I was just looking at your links right now.
So Ubisoft is releasing this. It's for they said it's coming to all VR platforms. Did you ever play Space Team?
Is that iOS game?
Yes, where you're all in the same room and you shout out commands to each other. It's like that, but with Star Trek and in virtual reality. It's the first game I've seen. I'm not saying it's the first I've seen that uses multiple people wearing VR headsets in the same room in a co-op style environment.
Very cool.
And it's very similar, where everyone has a different control piece of the it's not the Enterprise, but whatever Star Trek ship they're using. And you have to control different pieces, and there's the bridge and weapons and comms, and it looks so much fun. I'm like, I want this. Now, of course, you have to have like 6 friends, all who have VR headsets, and bring their giant computers to plug them into. I mean, it's horrifically impractical.
Well, maybe it'll support PlayStation VR when that comes out in the fall.
They say most major platforms, so that would be cool.
Yeah.
But even if you could do it with like Gear VR, where you're just strapping the phone to the face, or was it Daydream from Google?
Phone in the face.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Because I think party games are a great example of this. I mean, it's kind of sad because you've got everyone at a party and everyone has a headset strapped on their face, but I think that's a cool opportunity for VR.
Yeah, it doesn't look terrible. Hang on, I'm trying to find like the in-game footage.
Oh yeah, because they have some of the Star Trek actors playing the game.
Playing it.
Unsurprisingly, talking about how great it is. Shocker.
Right. It doesn't look super like, I don't know.
It looks cheap. It looks a little cheap. Yeah.
Which I think is fine. So, I mean, I guess what my point was, that gives me hope that it might support many devices.
Well, that's the problem I have with a lot of, and I was watching the PlayStation stream before we came on, and they were doing a bunch of PSVR games, and it was literally just a bunch of existing games in VR. So it was
Mm,
like, Final Fantasy in VR, Star Wars in VR, Batman in VR, and it's like, that's great, but give me something I can't get normally with a controller, like blow
right.
my mind with something awesome.
Yeah, and like a port is never going to be as good as an experience designed for that.
Right, right, and again, it's all, you know, stuff we've seen before. The same kind of shoot 'em up at games or flying games or, give me something that hasn't been done.
Yeah.
That's why I can't wait for indie developers on VR. That's going to be fun.
Yes, sir.
But then again, we won't own one of those in a long time. Now, I see here you put the Dishonored 2.
Yeah, I thought it looked pretty cool. I've also been meaning to play Dishonored 1 and just haven't gotten around to it. Um I think that's a Bethesda game, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I watched some other of their other trailers. The Skyrim reboot looks pretty. I don't know. Historically, I'm not super into games like Skyrim, so I'm not sure if I'll play that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
A lot of
more.
Fallout DLC.
Oh yeah, it looked like there was like a legit like content DLC for Fallout, the Nuka Land or something. So that's kind of cool. I mean, I still haven't finished the
I was going to
actual.
say, how can you possibly spend any more time in Fallout 4? Like, I just don't think it's possible. That's got
Yeah,
to be the longest game ever at this point. Um,
it's quite possible.
and they even announced some. They didn't say. They said VR content for Fallout. Now they didn't say a game. They said
Oh,
content.
interesting.
Take that for what you will. Oh, and also Fallout Shelter is coming to PC and getting some new, some ability to do stuff outside of the shelter.
Did you play Fallout Shelter?
I did for a little while and it was fun. The problem is with any of those kind of games where they have the clock and you got to wait or you got to build stuff up over time. I get bored really fast. So
Me
I played
too.
it and it was great. It was really good. I just couldn't
Yeah,
sustain.
I played it way too much for a short period of time.
You get burned out.
Yeah, and then I was like, "Oh my god, I can't believe I've done this for the last 3 hours. I have to stop."
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, so that was. It also came out. I feel like it came out during the winter, or it was at a time when I was taking the train to work every day. So I was doing it on the train.
It's a
I
perfect
felt
place
pretty.
for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll have to see if the update's any good.
Yeah.
Anything else E3 you want to talk? I will. Let's see. The only other thing was that, as I said, PlayStation announced PSVR is going to be available in October for $399 here in the U.S. That was it for hardware for
yeah.
Sony.
That's cool. I don't think I'll spend $400 on it. But
I mean, hey, could I think of better ways to spend $400, but at least it's not, $1,000. That's what's nice is it works with the PS4 you already own. Now the
that's
problem is I
true.
don't know if there's any games you want to play with it, but at least you don't have to get a $1,000 gaming computer to use it.
That's true. Yeah. I don't know if. I guess maybe I'd consider if there was something cool enough, like No Man's Sky or something. If No Man's Sky ever comes out.
Well, we'll have to wait and find out. But we are going to move on then from E3 to WWDC, where there is plenty to talk about. Apple's big event. We've got a bunch of stuff here in the sheet. Let's see, I'll do super high level. Super, like Mile High Club. High level. And what was announced.
Don't panic's getting weird.
And then getting weird. We've been weird 35 times. So they started with WatchOS. WatchOS 3. Complete
WatchOS.
redesign, like everything else. Looks far less complicated and much easier. It's got things you might recognize like Control Center and better notifications, and they made the crown and the button on it less weird, and a bunch of stuff that actually makes the watch look kind of fun to use. I certainly didn't pick out anything from there I thought was particularly interesting. Although they showed a feature, so they made a big push in fitness. They showed a feature where you can share your workout with friends
Okay.
and create like a social thing with your exercise and see how other people were exercising, which I thought was a great idea. But then I thought, like, how the hell are they doing that? So Apple has no social backbone. Like, how are
Oh,
they powering that?
I wonder if they're using like Facebook or something, or just phone numbers. Probably,
It's got to be
honestly,
your
that's
contacts.
right. That's the Apple. I mean, iMessage. Apple does have a social network in its iMessage, right? It's between iPhone users, which is
Right.
really what you need, right? Like only people with an iPhone can have an Apple Watch,
Mhm.
and only people with an iPhone have iMessages. So I bet that's what it is. Similar to FaceTime.
Yes. Yeah, it's probably that your iCloud kind of identification, your email or your
Right.
phone number. That would make sense.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as I thought about that, I'm like, it is kind of weird to think about that Apple really doesn't have a social backbone,
Yeah.
you know? At least not yet.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, they tried with Game Center a little bit, and
Fail.
we all know how well that went.
Well, there was Ping.
Ping and Connect more recently, where they tried that
Yeah.
again. Yeah, every time they try to do
Reping.
social stuff, that's because I was thinking like if I had an Apple Watch and I wanted to share my workout with you, I mean that'd be easy because I have your contacts. But what if it was somebody with an Android phone or something? I mean it's just weird thing.
Well,
But
I
they
mean,
didn't
right.
elaborate.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the like. Well, I guess you could have like a web thing that you could like look at it. I don't know.
Yeah, that would be good. I don't know if they mentioned
You would
that.
you would hope.
They flew through this announcement so fast. There was so much stuff that
It's true.
who knows if we even saw.
Maybe we'll learn more as the week progresses.
I think so. I think so. And certainly in the fall when the hardware comes out to accompany it. But I will say it did. I thought it looked like a big improvement on the old Apple Watch.
Yeah, I agree.
But then again, every Apple event makes me want to buy their crap. So, tvOS also got an update. This I picked as something to talk about because I actually do think it's really interesting as we talk about Apple wanting to be more of a not a cable provider, but more of a provider of content. Some of the smaller things were a new iOS app for controlling your Apple TV. That's more like the new Apple TV remote. No new searches for Siri on Apple TV. The ability to search YouTube videos, which were new. But what I thought was really interesting was stuff around cable providers. So, Colby, I don't know if you have this with your Comcast subscription because I know you have very light cable through them, where you can use your Comcast credentials to log on to like the ESPN app or the AMC app or whatever and get access to that content.
Yeah, so I do have that. There are still like I do still get a few channels. And also like the broadcast channels still make you log in with your cable what you call it? Like with your cable provider to
Mm-hmm.
see just to like watch them. So for things like the CBS and NBC sports apps. Like I have to log into those,
Mm-hmm.
and I do have like the HBO Go thing. That's the one thing I use that I get from my Comcast package. So
And those are becoming extremely common. The vast majority of networks now have that. It's a good bridge between cutting the cord, not cutting the cord, because you still need cable to get it. Apple announced two interesting features with that. One is called Live TuneIn, which is any app that gives you the live stream of that channel, which ESPN is a good example of this, where you can just watch regular ESPN in their apps. You can say to Siri, watch ESPN, and it knows to not just pull up the app, but also to pull up the live stream of ESPN. And the same goes for Disney Channel was another example. For any app that has a live stream, just say watch it, and it opens it up. Again, bing, light bulb, like a TV when you just flip to a channel and it goes on. See?
mm-hmm.
The other big thing was a single sign-on feature. So, Cole, you, for example, you would put in your Comcast credentials once, and Apple would automatically tell you, A, every app that is compatible with Comcast, and B, if you selected it, it would automatically log you in using your credentials. You give it to Apple once, and they log you into every app. Apple has essentially built a cable box. Like
Right.
they're really far closer than they were yesterday, if you really think
Yeah.
about it, because you can flip channels now like a regular TV, and all of the channels are automatically there. You don't log
Yep.
into each individually. And it tells you
Yeah.
what channels are available with your subscription.
Yeah, that's
And
true.
the best part, if you're Apple, you didn't negotiate shit with the cable companies because, right, that was always their big. Every year we were like, oh, this is the year they announced they're doing a cable package, and this is the. And it was all
Right.
the negotiations fell apart. They wanted too much money. Apple didn't do anything. They just built some good software.
Yeah, it's like clever UX,
Even
right? It's just like,
and no one does this. Fire TV doesn't do this. Roku doesn't do this. Nobody does this the
mm,
way they are doing it. It makes me want an Apple TV, even though I own like 8 Rokus, which is don't even get me started on why I own that many. But it's this really got me excited because this is the kind of stuff that makes cord cutting kind of worth it. Now, again, you need a cable subscription to do all these things, so
sure,
that's where you're gonna miss. But
right. Did they say was there an ETA on this update?
um, uh, I don't see in this article. I'm assuming everything was fall.
Oh,
With
okay.
developer previews earlier.
Mhm.
So I would safely say fall, maybe sooner, but I would safely say fall.
Right. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. It was pretty it is, I mean, it continues to be annoying to do all the sign-ins, but like it was particularly annoying when I first got the Apple TV.
Mm-hmm.
Not to be a whiner like everyone else on the internet.
Yeah, no, there are a lot of cool advantages to Apple TV.
Yeah. I'm really they also said that more apps will be integrated with Siri, right? So like
Yes,
I'm excited for that cuz like the Siri search is kind of nice, but not if you like don't want to watch something on the 3 things that it can search.
exactly. Yeah, they announced several new partners for that. Like I said, including YouTube, as well, which is nice.
Did you just hear Siri?
No, no, did it activate?
Oh, yeah. It said you'll need to unlock your iPad first. Like,
That's real helpful, Siri.
yeah. You suck.
So that was about it for tvOS. Now there's the newly named Mac OS. What do you think of the new name?
The new name
It's
Mac
so
OS.
different.
Uh yeah, I mean it makes sense. I get it. It's cool. I did like so I want this evening over as I was like eating dinner and stuff. I watched the whole keynote.
Hmm.
And I enjoyed Craig Federighi's slide with like all the names of the platforms and like they're all something OS and then they're all lined up like the OSs are lined up and the 10 sticks out the other side and like something's different here.
And can we just take a second to just admit how much of a national treasure Craig Federighi is?
he,
He's
he
the man. He's so great.
he was quite funny. Like still the thing I like about him is that he's still awkward like the rest of them are. Um but is like I don't know, I guess like charmingly awkward, whereas the rest of them are just
Yeah,
awkward.
it's endearing.
Yeah, yes. Endearing is exactly the right word.
I loved the when they were doing the iMessage stuff, which we'll get to, but he was like, everyone uses emoji, so we made them 3 times bigger, and he got so excited, and everyone cheered. It was, I don't know, we're just such nerds, but it's great.
It's true. It's true.
Um,
I also like the lady who did Apple Music.
yeah,
She was quite a character.
she was great.
And good for her being like self-confident and like not caring enough to get on stage and do that sort of thing for with a bunch of I don't know like nerdy
It's a developers conference.
right a developers conference.
That says it all.
Yeah, she rocked it. I thought it was great.
It was a good. Hey, they put on a good show. No one's gonna question him there. Let's see. The big stuff in Mac OS was well, we can start with this, which is some of the continuity. Continuum? Continuity? What is it? Continuity. I always call it the
Yes.
wrong thing.
Continuity.
Continuity, yes, which was the idea that your phone and your computer and your tablet were going to interact more. We talked about this last year. This year they brought some new stuff to it. Colby, how about universal copy paste? Get psyched.
Yeah,
You would
that's
copy a
wicked.
thing in one place and paste
So
it in another.
so I already have that, and the way I have that is I message things to myself constantly,
Mm-hmm.
which is ridiculous. So I'm super psyched that this is a thing. I think it'll be really great.
It's neat.
Yeah. Yes. It is
I
neat.
mean, it's just
It's
one of those little things.
I can't. Can you send me a link to the Mac one? I don't have it. I can't find it.
To the
It's too
Mac one of what?
the like Verge article about the.
Oh, I actually don't have one about copy paste. But
Oh, do they do individual ones? My
yeah,
God.
they did for
So
some things, but not for others.
right.
But I can scroll and see if I can.
I'll just find the. Oh, I found their 13 biggest announcements ones. This is fun.
Yeah, it's close enough.
Okay.
Because the other continuous stuff, which I thought copy and paste wasn't super interesting to me, but that's just because I'm not a Mac user. But I
Mhm.
did like unlocking, local unlocking. So if you're wearing your Apple Watch and you approach your computer, it will automatically unlock, and you won't have to do anything to unlock it, which is pretty neat.
Yep.
And I wish more devices would do that because that's great.
I would like if. Uh, so I feel like I read somewhere that that works with a phone too, but I would like it if I could like Touch ID my phone to unlock my computer.
Yes, and that's a
Because I
great
wouldn't.
segue. No, continue.
Because I wouldn't want it to happen like just I walk near my computer and it unlocks for anyone who opens it.
Mm-hmm.
But I would like it to be like, oh, use Touch ID on your phone. Boom, Touch ID. And also, that's like the next best thing to having Touch ID like on Macs.
Right. I mean, we know the rumor that it may be on the next version, but I think that's kind of a no-brainer. And I
Hmm.
think it'd be good, honestly, to have both options. Give people more abilities to unlock the devices. What's interesting about the fingerprint thing is Apple Pay, which was another thing they announced, that Apple Pay will now be available in Safari on your desktop. And you're saying to yourself, but Sean, doesn't Apple Pay require your fingerprint? No, it still does. When you go to pay for something on your Mac in Safari, it pops up on your phone, and you finish the
Mm,
transaction on your phone using Touch ID, which
clever.
is awesome. That is so. I don't know how that works or how that's secure, and I don't want to know. I just know that is so cool. There's just
Yeah,
something about that where it's like you go to purchase something and your phone, you just reach to your phone, put your thumb on it, and you've bought something.
right. Well, you know what's cool about it? It's kind of like two factor without people like having to deal with two factor auth,
Exactly. Like,
right?
could you imagine everything logs in that way?
Yeah, it'd be crazy.
It would be. I'm. God damn it! Apple makes me want their stuff. It's really annoying. But I love this feature when they announced it because it's really. I don't know. I just think it's really neat. Just
I
something
agree.
about
I agree.
it. Let's see. What else did they talk about? Was there anything Mac related they discussed? I'm trying to remember. Oh, Siri on
Uh,
Mac. Siri on
yep.
Mac,
Siri.
which was interesting. I mean,
Yeah,
again, you really have to be a heavy Mac. You got to use Mail, and you got to use, all the kind of photos, and you got to use all the Mac stuff for it to work. But if you do that, then you'll be able to ask Siri
well,
questions.
I mean, Siri. In talking about Siri, they're opening up the Siri APIs, right?
But with now, and I genuinely don't know, is that on iOS only, or
I
was
don't
that
know.
on Mac as well?
Uh,
Because I know it's for iOS, but I don't. I don't remember them specifically saying one way or the other.
yeah. I don't know. This article at least is on non-committal on that front.
Okay. Which is okay. Which is whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if it were open on both. I just don't. I just don't know how they roll. So yeah, if that's about it for Mac, then yeah, we can move on to iOS and talk about Siri for everyone, opening up to developers. A lot of stuff opening up to developers, which is always super interesting.
Hmm.
including Siri and iMessage, which we'll talk to messages, not iMessage, messages, which we'll talk about in a second. Um, Colby, what do we think of Siri opening up to everyone, to developers?
Yeah, I think it's about time.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, like I mean, this is I feel like pundits galore have been saying this like ad nauseum for a year, but uh, they're kind of behind. Like or it feels like they're pretty far behind Google and Amazon in this front, right? Like Google Now is open to developers, as far as I know, and probably works pretty well. Though I don't haven't really used it in years. And the Amazon Echo definitely works very well. People love it, and
Mm-hmm.
that is also totally open. So they had to get on the boat. Now they're on the boat, or they're almost on the boat.
You know, one way I thought about it that was interesting to me was CarPlay,
Mm-hmm.
and the idea that, just using that as an example, if I were in a car and or when I'm mowing the lawn, right? Just when you're doing everyday activities, I don't use Apple stock apps. I use them very rarely. And if I want to play a podcast in Overcast, I can't do it by voice. It just doesn't work. And that
Mm-hmm.
sucks. Like, that is
Right.
not a great user experience. And when you're in a car or you're doing something hands free, you need the ability to do these things. And I don't think CarPlay, as an example, isn't a good system if it can't allow apps to actually use the features, because voice is one of the biggest features, if not the biggest feature of that platform.
Especially, yeah, I think it absolutely is the biggest feature of the car stuff.
And I think it's an absolute no brainer. So I'm glad to see that's the case. The problem I have now is Siri competent enough to understand the vast multitude of commands that she will have to understand, because there's so many different kinds of apps, and do I have to always call the app by name, or can I pick, when I say play a podcast, does it know which podcast app to use? I'm probably overthinking it, but
Right.
it's those kind of little
Um,
things that concern me about voice.
Yeah, I hopefully they've thought through those details, right? I think like you can certainly imagine a nightmare scenario where you happen to have like three podcast apps on your phone and you say, "Oh, play the Radio Lab podcast," and it just round robins them like every
Hmm.
time it just opens a different one or something.
Oh yeah.
That would be terrible. Um, I would hope like so on the Apple TV, or at least some of the demos they had in the keynote today. You could do things like search for Steph Curry in YouTube or something. So I would imagine it'll work something like that. Like you wouldn't say play a podcast. You would say like play This American Life in Overcast or
Yeah,
something.
I think you're gonna have to be, send. I can't just say send Colby a message. It would have to be send Colby a message in Slack.
Right.
And
Right.
I think you'll need more context, which I guess is okay, and just something you get used
Yeah.
to.
Sure. Sure.
Um,
I could see it being like a learning curve maybe for some
yes,
people.
well, you have to learn what the commands are, right, and what you have to say to get the action you're looking for. Assuming it's not intuitive enough that you can just say almost anything and it'll figure it out. That's really a
I
tough
th-
question.
yeah, yeah. And yeah, I mean so that's an interesting like hearing people talk about the Amazon Echo. Um from what they say it's very much that way. Like it is not particularly flexible with what you can say to it,
Hmm.
but I've heard that they do a very good job like teaching you how to talk to it. And once you know how to talk to it, it's very useful.
Hmm.
So I could imagine it being that sort of situation. I still like I don't know. Part of me is a little disappointed that it's not. I guess Siri's always listening a lot of places now, so you can always talk to her. But I kind of wish there was an Apple like always listening
Speaker
back.
thing, yeah.
Yeah. Also because I feel like Apple is of the three companies, Apple is very privacy conscious. Like at least right now in their history, they're like of Google, Amazon, and Apple, they're far and away the most concerned with that.
Hmm.
And I feel like I would hope that their take on that sort of product would reflect that. And I think that would be pretty nice because it is kind of weird to have Amazon listening to you all the time.
Very true. Very true. Because we all know what kind of secrets you're hiding, Colby.
Yes.
And Amazon cannot know. Bezos, stop listening. So that is Siri. Let's see. We've got. Gosh, they just announced a shit ton of stuff. A lot of stuff was redesign type stuff. So Apple News got a redesign and now has subscriptions and better breaking news notifications, which is great because I don't. Did we talk about Notify being shut down on the show? I think that was last week. So remember Facebook's Notify app?
Oh, yeah, vaguely, yeah.
Yes, they're shutting it down. That's probably because nobody remembered it. But I actually came to use it. I never opened it, but they had really great news notifications, and I'm a news junkie. Mm-hmm. And so I subscribed to certain feeds, and I would always get, like, for example, today when it was announced Microsoft was buying LinkedIn, I found out, like, the second it was announced because of Notify, and they pushed me a news update.
Gotcha.
And I'm going to be I did an IFT recipe temporarily until I figure out a new way to get those notifications. I'm going to try it on Apple News.
Cool.
Because if I can get similar feeds, that would be great. I really actually liked that feature. The app was terrible, but the notifications were great. And it will be missed. But same for Apple Music, a redesign. There will now be daily curated playlists. There will be song lyrics. You will be able to tell which music is downloaded and which is streaming, which is interesting because you couldn't do that very easily before. A discovery mix that tailors a playlist to your taste. Let's see. Maps got a redesign, more focused on navigation. So it'll try to predict things you might want to do, like going home at the end of the day at work. You can... there's also integration with other apps, so you can pay for things, make restaurant reservations, book rides, and all those kind of third-party integration stuff. All right, let's. You want to talk about messages?
Yeah.
Yeah, this was a funky one. iMessage is getting crazy. It's honestly like they took iMessage and gave it ecstasy, and now it's just like, going nuts with some glow sticks. Because you're going to be able to just do a shit ton of new stuff in messages, including bigger emojis, emoji suggestions, and when you write a sentence, it will look for words that can be emojified, and you can tap them. So if you type the word pizza, you can tap it, and it will turn it into a pizza emoji. Believe it or not, that's a thing. You can share songs directly from Apple Music. You can handwrite notes. There are animated effects when you send a message, like it'll jiggle or expand. There will be got all kinds of other kind of gimmicky stuff. And then even bigger, developers are now getting access and can develop apps within messages, which is also very exciting for things like stickers, which we all love, and other such things.
And gifts.
Oh, it's gonna be amazing.
Yeah, it was real. I watching this, I was like, wow, they're like literally doing every feature that any other messaging app has implemented in the last like year and a half.
It's really
every
bad.
single one all at the same time. Which honestly is great because there are some things in like Facebook Messenger that I really enjoy, but like it's not super practical because iMessage is like, pretty legit and convenient.
Mm-hmm.
And I will definitely use some of these things.
I thought about this for a while because my first reaction was I hate this. Because for me the best part of iMessage, not believe me, it needed work, but the best part was that it was simple. It was like text messaging. It was really simple, And you know what I don't like about Facebook Messenger? It's got too much shit in it.
Yeah.
It is complicated, and there are buttons and 80,000 features I never use because all I do is write and occasionally send pictures.
Right.
And I thought about it, and if I would have much rather Apple added 0 new features but rolled it out on Android and gave me a Windows app and gave me a web app and blew
Yeah.
it out that way. Those are features that are practical. None of these things, they're cool and they're flashy. Outside of developer editions, which we can talk, we can talk about in a second. I'm talking about all that, the handwriting and the emoji and the, well, those are great. Those are not, for me, value add features. They're gimmicks.
Right.
They're really, they're not adding functionality in any way, which is really, I'm good, great. I mean, it's good to have the option, but if my messages start exploding and flashing and the backgrounds start changing and invisible ink and all this nonsense, I'm just going to get annoyed.
Yeah.
But I'm also an
So
old man, so I'm not really I'm
right.
grumpy and the curmudgeon. So
If there's one thing I've learned about you in the last few years, Sean, it's that you don't like anything,
back in my day,
particularly new things.
no,
Uh,
exactly.
so my thoughts here include one, while there's a bunch of crazy stuff, the base interface does not seem to have changed a whole lot,
Agree.
which I think is a plus. Like, looking at this compared to Facebook Messenger with the like 50 million buttons across the bottom and like, it's a little crazy. That could be good or bad. I mean, maybe that will mean people won't find a lot of those things, which it sounds like you are kind of hoping it might be the case.
By the way, if any friends are listening, all I'm going to get sent when this comes out is all of this flashy stuff nonstop.
Absolutely.
I'm not looking forward to it.
Absolutely. I think some of the things are just like kind of nice, like the link inlining stuff. That's cool.
Yes, that is cool. The inline previews are pretty great.
The auto emoji replacer thing is silly but amusing.
On paper, it's a good idea. I'm just going to get annoyed
Yeah.
when people use it.
Right,
Just use
right.
your words.
Right. That's not how I use emoji. Like, I rarely use emoji in place of words. I use emoji as like augmentations
accent,
of the message I'm sending. So that'll be interesting. I'm definitely into the quick replies things. I like that. I'm a fan of that feature. I also like the quick replies that they have. I like the thumbs up, thumbs down, haha. I feel like I text haha to people a lot, so I'm just never gonna write that out again. Yeah, I don't know.
But
We'll see.
where things get
Could be.
interesting is third-party developers getting access to messages, which, I was legitimately surprised. Because if you had told me Siri access, okay, maps, sure.
Right.
All the other
Or like
parts of
access
iOS,
through Siri or something, or like yeah.
but apps built for iMessage, crazy.
Now, so here's my question about this, because I couldn't care less about probably anything that some messages app will do, but will the Pebble app be able to send iMessages? And I can only assume it's no, because that would be too nice. But
Well,
that's my question.
well, if an
I
app,
haven't read up much about it.
I mean, you have to assume if you can build an app that has access to write and read messages, then I can't think of any reason why Pebble couldn't. But we just don't know what level of access they actually have.
Right. Well, it's I would wonder, is it like the apps can only do things while you're in messages?
I think it's
right,
within the walled garden.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's I'm assuming that's the case, in which case in which means that what I want is just not possible.
Yeah, that is a bummer. But I think it is cool, and again, this is another one I'm trying to wrap my head around about where does this become interesting? Because if it is just a bunch of sticker and GIF apps, like that is really lame. Because that's
Hmm.
kind of what Facebook does. Um, but the one example they gave, which was really interesting, was there's some food app Silicon Valley thing, but they showed a group message where people were deciding what they wanted for dinner, and they were doing it within the app within iMessage
Yeah.
as they were typing to each other, and they were sending each other the total as they were doing it, and they could see there was a level of interactivity there. And I'm like, it kind of reminds me of like a meeting with screen sharing where it's like you're talking but you're also doing something. And
Yeah.
it's kind of like that idea where if you can be messaging people and completing an action within iMessage at the same time, so you're not bouncing between apps, that's a really neat idea.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that's the like that kind of thing plays to what social strength Apple has. Like, do were we talking about this on air or off air?
Which part?
The we were talking about Apple's like what
Oh,
Apple has social wise.
no, that was before. No, oh, no, that was on the air. No, that was when we were
Oh,
talking
okay.
about WatchOS.
Right. So like I feel like the like this like people in your address book like people you actually know in real life, like people you see enough to text message, like that's what it, well, and assuming they all have iPhones, but like that's where Apple has an advantage, right? Over, well, at least over like the Twitters of the world, right? And to some extent, I think Facebook as well, or they could. I could see it working well for certain groups of friends. I guess everyone has that one friend who doesn't have an iPhone though.
Yeah, just a social pariah.
Yeah. Though I feel like third party apps will deal with that themselves maybe if they can.
Well, I hope. I mean, I don't know. I go back and forth, but I would like Apple to open it up to multi-platform. It just really, and I kind of get the idea that if
Mm.
they build a critical mass of iOS users and of Apple users, then it's really easy to convert Android people.
Yeah.
Um, but
That's what I really don't understand why they haven't just done that. Like why?
well, especially
Why
because
not?
they're
I mean, it's not an Apple-y thing to do, to be fair.
well, but that's what I was just thinking was that's I don't think that's true anymore. They built Apple Music for Android.
What?
We talked about this last year.
Oh my God.
I think they launched
What?
it, right? They definitely talked about it. You can go, this is the thing. I'm
Oh my God.
yeah, yeah,
I
you may
had
not remember.
no idea. Oh, this changes everything. What? Wow. This is super bizarre for one. I don't remember this at all.
Hmm.
Uh, that's crazy. No, but then you're absolutely right. Like
I mean,
I don't
but that
understand.
was a big first step for them, and honestly, I'm not surprised it wasn't this year, but I am hoping it's next year. Like it's got to be coming. Again, you
Mm.
talk about social scale, and you can't do it on a single platform. Name a single. Well, I'm not going to ask to name a single because someone will, and I'll be proven wrong. But it's hard for somebody who owns a hardware platform like that to keep it exclusive. And I don't think even Microsoft these days is building apps for everybody. There's just value in that. So,
Yeah, right.
but
Because some people like it's you open yourself up to like people trying it like and maybe getting sucked in. Though I guess that cuts both ways, right? Like you can also try a different thing on your phone or something if you can still get iMessage.
well,
Um,
I think there's something to be said for the strategy of get iMessage super awesome on iOS and then
mm,
roll it out elsewhere. Like that's not a bad strategy. And if that's what they're trying to do, then that's fine. Then good for them.
yeah. I just wonder like when is super awesome like or
When is
and when
enough
do you
enough?
just lose like when does something else like have such a killer feature that uh everyone stops using iMessage.
Yeah.
It does seem like a
I
vulnerability.
think
That,
Snapchat's a good example of that. I mean, I don't know the usage rates comparatively, but I mean, Snapchat's got to be, in terms of just communication, has got to be as popular, if not more popular.
oh yeah,
I
I'm
mean,
sure.
it's because it has certain advantages that iMessage does not. I mean, that's where they've got to really differentiate themselves from
Right.
just basic messaging apps. But it's kind of interesting to think about, and it's just a thought experiment. But what other parts of iOS could they roll out to other platforms? I mean, would they ever make a Maps app for Android? I mean, they're spending all this
Maybe.
money on mapping cars and buying map
Yeah.
companies.
I mean, I guess they might as well.
They could roll out Siri
Um,
if they wanted to, kind of like Microsoft's done
yep,
with
they can do
Cortana.
Siri. Right. I mean, it's interesting too because like you can do a lot of stuff on Android. Like you can Apple can have like way more like iOS experiences for their apps than an Android app can have on iOS,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
which I think is fascinating, or like is an advantage for them. Really, that's crazy.
Um.
Also, the this is totally unrelated, but I was looking at the Play Store page for Apple Music, and one of these reviews, like in the featured reviews section, it's 1 star, and it says, "Nope, I wouldn't pay for this thing, therefore I have not used it. I'm just downvoting." Like,
What a dick.
wow,
That's so unnecessary.
right?
That's awesome.
Amazing. Dear.
All right. Is there anything else? We've almost talked about everything. One thing
Hmm.
I thought. Well, we can talk about notifications and the lock screen got some updates, mostly just a visual redesign, but a few new features. One thing that really did strike me as I was watching these demos is 3D touch is really important to iOS. Like there
Yeah.
was a lot of stuff that was, and if you 3D touch here, this happens,
Yeah.
especially with all the notifications and all the lock screen and the control center and all of that. Very important.
I'm pretty excited to get a new phone this year, uh, because I want 3D touch. I think it's super cool. It's a whole other level of stuff. Like, not to say that things should be more complicated, but like you can be a power user of phone apps now,
And the
right?
widgets were, where they had the example of an ESPN widget during a game, and you long press it 3D touch, and the live stream of the game opens in the notification. I'm like, that's awesome. Like that's the kind of stuff that you need a third dimension of interactivity to enable, unless you're going
Yeah.
to do some crazy stuff with the OS. So that really sells the hardware for me.
Yeah, and I mean, I like the push to have like lighter ways of interacting with apps, like open ways of interacting with apps too, not like OS built in like post to Facebook, like a generic way to use like the apps that I actually want to use.
Hmm.
Because I think like when I go to apps, like the apps I visit all the time, I'm doing a specific thing, and it's usually a small subset of what the entire app does. So the faster I can do that, the less angry I'm gonna be when it takes a long time to load the full binary.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think it's cool. Also, I was looking through the 13 the recap here, and they have voicemail transcription on iOS.
Yeah. A beta feature, by the way.
Uh,
They were very clear on the slide. They got a nice little mini beta written under it. I will point out,
yeah,
subject to error, but yeah.
fair enough. So one, that's wicked cool, and two, this is another thing I forgot that Android doesn't have, the visual voicemail. Oh my god, it's such a like I've taken that for granted for
It's
years,
amazing
and
they don't have it.
right. And like Android, you still have to like call your voicemail and like type in numbers to delete stuff. It's crazy. Um, and so I have heard that the way visual voicemail is implemented is completely insane. Like it's like sounds, I don't know. It's totally insane from what I understand. But it's amazing. Uh, And I mean that makes it all the better, right? That it was super hard and it works really well. It
Yeah,
works great.
yeah. This will be a nice feature. I think when it comes out. In addition, by the way, to there will also be APIs that allow you to integrate VoIP apps right into the phone
Mm-hmm.
interface, and they will come up as regular calls if someone calls you
Oh,
in
very cool.
WhatsApp or whatever. It'll
Yeah.
just seem like a regular call. So that's a nice feature. But a
Neat.
lot of APIs. Gonna build a
It's
lot
like
of stuff.
the end of the work phone.
Yeah,
You can do voice calling in Slack, so your company can just have Slack.
dude, that'd be awesome. You can do
Yeah.
voice calling in Slack.
Yeah, they have it now.
Oh, neat.
I think they just recently unbaited it. I've used it before though. It works pretty well. I've used it like when on the rare occasion when I'm working from home and I actually need to talk to someone in real life.
My desk phone, which is an actual like Cisco hardline phone, rang today, and I didn't know what to do because when I'm in my new office in Houston, they asked me if I needed a phone, and I told them no, I don't need a phone. Don't give me a phone because
Right.
I don't ever use it. And actually, I'm going to see if they can actually hook you up with a phone number that rings right to Skype on your
Uh,
PC,
nice.
and just go all digital because we love
Nice.
Skype. Skype works perfectly, never a problem.
Maybe it works better if you like pay for it or
Actually,
something.
it does. It works really well, which is surprising because my
Damn.
Skype goes all the way to Saudi Arabia and back. So,
Right,
um,
with no problems.
yeah, it's hey, listen,
So
I'm fingers crossed. I'm not gonna knock it. It's worked well for
right.
me. I'm asking for trouble by making fun of it.
It's
Um,
true. It's
yeah,
actually been great tonight. Maybe it's just like
it's
the too
Dan.
many
No,
people Skype. Yeah,
no,
that could
no.
be.
Skype does collapse under its own weight. It really does. It is not built for large groups. That is very true.
I mean, it is a case like don't panic with the three of us is usually more stable than game nights with the four of us.
Well, and
Maybe
it's
that's a problem.
and it hammers. That's the reason why we haven't been able to do game nights on Twitch is because the local processing that
Oh,
a four-person call has versus this kind of call.
yeah.
We look like super crisp on Twitch. We look great. Well, we always look great, but we look really good on
Oh,
Twitch. But that's because it's just the two of us, and it's not eating up any of the processor power. Because
right.
it's not a bandwidth issue. I've checked.
Mm,
It's more of a local processing power.
indeed.
All right. I have one last thought on the Apple event because we've kind of talked about everything. Um, I Was there anything new Apple announced at this event? And by new, I mean something we hadn't seen before.
Uh, do you mean like hadn't seen before, as in like some other company doesn't already do this?
Sure, sure. Or something Apple didn't do on one device and brought to another, or like a truly new idea. Not even a big one, just
I think
something.
the like the Apple Pay with your phone slash unlock your computer. I mean, that I'm sure there are unlock your computer sorts of
No, but
situations
that's a
out
good
there,
example.
but
Okay.
that like bridge that like Touch ID like auth with your phone to your computer. Um, I think that's pretty novel.
Because my takeaway from this event was I mean, it's a software event, so, that's a piece of it, but almost everything they announced was just a refinement of previous things they had already announced, especially with the watch and with tvOS. I think the Mac stuff, you're right. I think that the payment stuff is a good example of something a little more interesting. The messaging stuff wasn't new. We've seen all that before. The redesign of Apple Music and of News and of Maps, that's all stuff we've seen before. Adding lyrics to the app, I mean, that's other apps have been doing that for years.
Right.
But that's okay. I'm getting to the point where
Yeah.
that's okay. That it doesn't. I'm not bothered. I didn't leave this event really feeling bummed because I didn't get anything new. I felt good because the stuff I have got great.
Yeah. So I was actually thinking about this too. Like, I wonder, most other software companies, I feel like maybe like Phone OS's isn't quite true of, but um, like at least with apps, right? When you're thinking about Messenger, like or iMessage is like an app. but it doesn't get updated on an app schedule, right?
Right.
Like your other messaging apps are routinely like, you know, every 2 weeks Facebook updates their apps. Um, Sometimes that's like not sometimes it's not like new features, but sometimes it is. So like you're getting new things all the time. Whereas with iMessage you get new things. I mean there are incremental updates like bug fixes and stuff. But generally you get new things once a year. And I don't know if that's better or not. Like is it on the one hand it's annoying, like on the one hand it feels right now it feels like Apple is like playing catch up to other things. But on the other it's kind of cool. Like it's something to look forward to, I guess. And perhaps they get to look back and reap the benefits of all the successful experiments other apps have done or other apps have performed. So
Well,
I don't know. I wonder if you have any thoughts on
well,
that.
no, but I'm going to build off that because I think it's interesting that you mentioned that because you put this in the sheet, and this is probably the last piece we'll talk about. But in iOS 10, you can delete and re-download stock apps. But what's interesting about that is you do it through the App Store. Hypothetically, and in no means did they say they were doing this, Apple could push an update to an individual app via the App Store because it operates like an App Store app. There's a list
Right.
of you can't. It's not every single app you can remove, but you can remove music if you want. You can remove news and podcasts. Well, podcasts you could always remove actually. The
Yeah,
Watch
I think
app,
podcast has always been on the store.
the
Uh,
Calendar app, the Calculator app, FaceTime, Find My Friends. You could always remove. The new Home app, which we didn't even get a chance to talk about. Contacts. So there are a lot you could do, but unbundling, like you said, the apps from the OS does open up a lot of possibilities to
yeah,
getting a much faster upgrade cycle. I would stand out now and say I don't think Apple will update them this way because
yeah,
I think they get publicity by doing it once a year and they get people's
right.
attention.
I could see them doing like
Small stuff.
bug fix stuff,
Oh,
right? Because
sure.
it's as you're like talking about friction, like doing something. If you have like a security fix in Messenger or iMessage, sorry, and you want to push that out, like it's way harder to get people to do a whole system update than it is to get them to upgrade one app. And certainly there's like a gradient, right? Like there are people who don't update their apps either. But for the most part, that all happens like seamlessly without you doing it. And like the software, the OS update does not happen that way. So I feel like there could be advantages, even if they don't do the big feature dumps or incremental feature dumps.
I would bet that if that is the route they want to take, I bet they announce it in the fall because they always save a few software things for the fall event that they didn't mention in the spring, and I think that could be a very interesting one for them to announce there.
Yeah.
Faster updates for stock apps, but we will see. Colby, we're out of time, sadly,
Oh
because
dang!
this has been fun, and
There's
honestly,
just so much to say.
we've covered, and like I said, we didn't even cover it. We didn't even get to talk about the new Home app for HomeKit, which I kind of just explained it. It's just an app to control all your home shit. Pretty simple.
Yep.
But we managed to do both E3 and WWDC, which is a pretty big accomplishment.
It's true.
When you don't have Dan weighing you down, no, I'm just kidding. That's not very nice. But, I was going to call him an anchor, but I figured that was too big of a C joke. So I skipped that one. But this is good. Let's see. Is there anything else we should say?
I don't know. I'm sure we'll have more to say, and I'm sure Dan will have thoughts that he will share with us next week.
Well, there's no show next week. Well, no,
Oh.
that's not true. No, wait. Let me think about that. No, there's no show next week.
Are you going to be in transit next week?
Yes, so Monday I'm actually moving into my new place. Now, I would say you and Dan could do it without me again, but I won't have access to process any of it until later in the week, and by then it's not really worth it. So we'll probably just take
Gotcha.
the week off.
Cool.
But we'll have some extra time to reflect. However,
Gotcha.
if you're bummed that we're not doing a show next week, you know what we are doing next week, Colby?
No.
Game nights. Wednesday night. Get psyched. Game nights, the Dungeons and Dragons show that we, along with Dan and Matt, do occasional, at random times, but it's on the feed, gamenights.tv. And one other thing, Colby, of course, we're doing the summer movie draft all summer at upfordebate.tv/draft. Did you see the update today?
True. No, I saw that it was posted. I got the notification, but I didn't look.
Colby.
Am I losing again?
You fell into last place.
Bummer.
But you've got a real...
I even went to see Popstar this weekend.
You were one of 4 people who did. I'm so sorry. I'm shocked at how little money that movie made.
Yeah.
It really should have been better.
I enjoyed it.
A lot of people did. I've only heard good things.
Yeah.
I don't know
it had
what happened.
decent ratings on Rotten Tomatoes. Like, it wasn't bad, but
this whole summer's been bad for non-franchise movies.
Right.
Like Keanu was another good example. I thought more people would have seen that. Any movie that wasn't a franchise did not.
Yeah, I feel like when we talk about these things, or we like roll our eyes and like another like movie that we've already seen, but like we do this to ourselves. This is all we go see. We go see things that are familiar.
Well, and this summer has really been the first summer of the Chinese blockbuster. As I've been doing my research, this is where they're now starting to release movies at the same time in China, which is kind of a new phenomenon over the last couple of years. Warcraft made money here in the U.S. It is now, I think, the second highest grossing movie in China of all time. Massive, utterly massive. So you got to realize when they start making movies now, it's not as big of a deal about making money in the U.S. If it makes a ton of money in China, they don't care where the profit comes from. So it may not. You may think a movie like, who's going to go see that in the U.S., but it doesn't matter. It matters that someone's going to go see it over there. That's why they keep making Transformers movies. We all agree they suck, and we all agree no one wants to see them. But they're huge in China, so it is a fascinating. If we counted global box office, it would be a totally different ballgame.
Right.
But
that would be a fascinating, like, if it's easy to do, like when we do our roundup, like this is what happened, but here's what it was.
What maybe
happened. It'll be the same, right?
Yeah, that would be interesting. I think that would actually probably change things, but we'd have to see. So yeah, you can go to up4debate.tv/draft and follow along all summer, and follow at up4debatetv on Twitter for updates throughout the summer. This show, don'tpanic.io, is the website. It's fantastic. Go there, audio, video of every episode, including picks. No picks this week, but there will be picks next week, next time. Of course, on Twitter at don'tpanicshow, and on Gmail, don'tpanicshow@gmail.com. I highly recommend you subscribe to the show on YouTube, Stitcher, iTunes, Google Play Music, via RSS, and most major podcasting apps. And lastly, we do the show live Monday nights, roughly 10 p.m. Eastern, on twitch.tv/don'tpanicshow. Go there and subscribe to the channel, and we'll notify you when we go live, because that's half the fun when we chat with the folks at home. Excellent. Anything else, Colby?
I don't think so. I think you covered it.
We've said all that's need to be. It's been over an hour, and we've said all that's need to be said.
All that we can say.
Well, I think now we officially. This is the official send-off to the Pittsfield studios of the Coffee and Beer Podcast Network. This is it.
I mean, it certainly well. I don't know what the rest of everyone can see, but like I see Sean from the side, so it's like pretty dark.
To show you, but everything's all. Yes, I'm also watching the basketball game while doing the show. I'm not gonna lie, but I've got just all my stuff is gone.
Oh man,
it's pretty lame.
Crazy.
Yeah, so that'll be interesting. But next time you watch the show, we'll be coming to you from our new Houston, Texas studio. So that'll be exciting.
Absolutely.
But until then, on behalf of Colby and, of course, Dan, who will be back, this is Sean, thanking all of you for joining us, and hopefully you'll join us next time for more tech news here on the Don't Panic Show.